543. Your Eminence, Cardinal Christian Tumi, it is a pleasure to have you here today. And Your Eminence, a lot of questions is being raised regarding the planned Anglophone General Council schedule for the 29th and 30th of August in Boya. Now, the question that many people are asking is, when did this idea come up into your mind? The idea of organizing an Anglophone conference.
The idea has been in my mind for quite some time. I listened to interventions of the Anglophones over televisions and radios, and I arrived at the conclusion that we were not saying the same thing. And that we did not really, when I say we now, I'm thinking of myself as an Anglophone. I thought in my conclusion, in listening to the interventions of Anglophones, I arrived at the conclusion that they were not saying the same thing, and that they did not really know what their problems were. The problems were not clearly defined. So I thought that it would be good for the Anglophones to meet and define clearly and as objectively as possible what their grievances against the central administration are. And that is why when I met a Monzo that I've known for quite some time and who has international experience, I called him and we spoke together, and he accepted to be a sort of secretary if I convene, if I propose, the idea of a third Anglophone conference. And also because he was, I think, one of the secretaries of the Anglophone conference that took place in 1993 from the 2nd to the 3rd of August. So that's how I arrived at that. I called him, he came here, and then I said I would not like to do it alone. Would like to deal with experienced religious leaders of other religions, major religions in Cameroon.
Okay.
That's how the idea of contacting the Presbyterian church for an elderly person. In preference, I would have loved the person representing the Presbyterian is a pastor on retirement, but is there who decided that the synod clerk should represent the Presbyterian church. And then we also thought that we should not forget our Muslim brothers. They have something to say. So we contacted, therefore, the imams of Boya and Bamenda, and they made sacrifices to be here in Douala. The Imam of Bamenda arrived at 4 o'clock and left for Bamenda about 6 o'clock or 7 in the evening. So that's how the idea came, and that's how we arrived at a communique, which was we didn't just propose a communique and the people said, but for such a meeting, you should bring together a draft that you don't come empty-handed. You say, this is what I propose as a draft declaration. Say, it is for us now to study it and see and adopt it. as our own. And that's what happened.
That would happen. Now, how do you make of people, especially within the Southern Cameroonian diaspora or Anglophone, who think that your initiative is kind of teleguided by Paul Biya's regime? What do you make of that?
Of course, they are sure there that the government has authorized the meeting. We're still wondering whether the government will accept us to meet, and
Yes.
because it's a big meeting, which they will have to be there to protect us, to make sure that the meeting takes place calmly, and because it's our right, it's our duty as pastors, you know. So some people think, well, surely if there's anybody to be pushed by anybody in Cameroon, it's not Cardinal Tumi.
Okay.
I have my personal conviction.
Okay. Granted that you are the sole initiator, how come that it is now 2 years that the crisis has been going on, and you are just now making or taking this initiative?
Because I thought that the initiative the government was taking to dialogue with the people on the field by sending, some government officials to meet the people would help to reduce the tension. But I think all of us will agree that the tension is getting more and more serious, and that we cannot just sit down looking at what is happening. But it's getting worse. Many soldiers are killed, many civilians are killed, So we as pastors, we want to speak and propose to the Anglophone Cameroonians and to all Cameroonians what we think should be done to seize the violence that is taking place now in the country. It's a proposition. We're not imposing. We're not imposing at all. As pastors, as religious leaders, for us Catholics, Christ has said, propose in season and out of season. Whether they listen to you or not, you would have done your work. But if we sit down silently and see things morally going wrong and we say nothing, we will be guilty before God.
Now, the other point that some Anglophones are raising, which could be described as founded or not, is that the other allegation is, are you the real initiator, or it is an initiative of Dr. Simon Munzu, who is an avowed federalist, and that you are just fronting for him?
Can you imagine me, Dr. Monzo, a young man there, and I, at my age, fronting for him? They don't it is my initiative, which coincidentally interest Monzo that I've known for years, So it's difficult to make the distinction. Even if it's you who propose an idea to me, if I see that, if I assume it, it becomes my own. If I assume it, the idea becomes, you can assume an idea that somebody else proposes to you. And there's no contradiction there. Whether he proposed it to me or I took the initiative and invited him,
Okay, now, what is going to happen? Given you made an assignment, the announcement on the 25th, read by the synod clerk, everybody heard what he read, that it was going to be an inclusive, all Anglophone meeting in Boya.
That's what was said in the document.
In the document, great. Now, how do you guarantee Anglophones who are in the bushes fighting with arms, those who are abroad, then with a sledgehammer of an arrest warrant?
That is why we're telling the government, please, to allow them come in freely and if possible, if it legally possible, to free those who are in prison so that they will participate either personally or by delegation in this meeting, because we call it inclusive.
Okay. And the other question is, what is going to be new? You know, you talked about the AAC 1 and 2. What new thing do you think that will come out from the planned August 29th and 30th meeting that is not new, that the government doesn't know?
Look, the government, what is new first in our initiative is that this initiative is taken by religious, men as we have a pastoral approach. We have no arms, but we tell love, forgiveness. These are the virtues we'll be insisting on. Love and forgiveness, objectivity and truth. These are not political. This is not political language. Mm-hmm. So that is what makes the whole thing different from our approach. And if we will take part in that meeting, we, the religious persons, and our insistence will be on those virtues that make man, that is, truth. If intellectually you are convinced that the other person is saying that what is true, you are obliged by the virtue of intellectual honesty to accept it. Whether you agree with it or not, if your intellect convinces you, as a matter of the honesty to your intellect, you have to accept it. Otherwise, your intellect will not be satisfied with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And do you think the government is going to accept that you congregate in Boya to discuss and dialogue among Anglophones about their future in this country, and that perhaps the outcome might somehow not be favorable to them?
No, the Anglophones are not coming together with a political seat. How will I put it? They haven't got a fixed together. They have no one stand in politics. There are some who are for secession. There are others who are federalism. There are others who are for a certain decentralization that the president of the country is proposing. All we are saying that anybody who wants to take part in this dialogue should be objective. That is to say, when you come to dialogue, you must be ready to take and give and take. That is, once you are convinced. I've spoken with some people, and I could get from their tone that they were getting convinced of what I was saying. When they say, some say, those in diaspora and as well say that 90% of the English-speaking Cameroonians are for secession. When I ask, well, how do you know? What is your basis for this affirmation? Mm-hmm. I can also affirm that 90% are for federalism. What is my base? So we come together, and from this coming together, we'll know who is who.
Okay.
Yes.
And finally, Your Eminence, and thank you for having accepted to grant us this interview. I am not putting in doubt your integrity whatsoever. I know you are a man of integrity, you are a man of God with a...
God alone knows me, and I know myself.
You know yourself. Will you now tell the world that in the presence of man and God, you and only you alone convene or is initiating what is the All Anglophone Conference, General Conference, and that you have no ulterior motive, or I might be repeating myself, you are not being teleguided by the regime that wants to organize her election come what may.
To be frank with you, since my intervention in the situation, political situation in the country, I've never consulted anybody. If I am not convinced personally, I don't accept it. So, what bien sûr, many think that because this declaration came out from my house, that I convened, and that it seems to go towards sort of the tendency, people are seeing in it the tendency for a possible solution of the problem. They think that I have been influenced by somebody, I don't know, but they know it, an occulted body, they say in the news, some newspapers say, but I affirm categorically that there's nobody behind me who could have the courage to push me to initiate anything of that magnitude, which involves, quite a number of hours of reflection and of, even the coordinator, Monzo, there's not a word he put in there without asking. When I tell him no, that word does not translate perfectly what we want to do as religious. That's why I say that is the difference between what other people have been doing and even what the Catholic Church, other churches, as individual churches have been doing. This is coming to us as a sort of ecumenical intervention publicly and proposing that this and that should be done for peace. Because I have a gift, I think, which God has given me. I'm never afraid to say directly and clearly and distinctly what my conviction is, and second concern the running of affairs in Cameroon. Everybody knows that. I don't consult anybody. It is not now at this in my age that I will begin to consult people. I have my convictions. So far, which I express in books. And if you look at my latest book, the last book I wrote on Cameroon to be transformed, one of the chapters there, it's about 2 years ago, one of the is treating on the Anglophone problem, which Dr. Fondot had treated in one of, I cite him in many passages. I've said many, in many parts of the book I wrote. I didn't consult anybody. I think I'm old enough to reason for myself, to observe and say, this is not what should be done. After all, I've been a governor of 3 dioceses. I've been the Bishop of Yagua, Archbishop of Garwa, and Archbishop today of Douala till my retirement in Douala. The church knows that he puts at the head of somebody who can reason and take a decision. Yes. I call the President of the Republic my junior brother. I'm older than him. Yeah.
And you are older than him. You have retired.
Yes.
He is still.
I have no longer. I have no any ambition now, neither in the church or in the world. Some people think I want to be the president. It's contradictory. They don't want Paul Biya. Some don't want Paul Biya to continue because he's old, I am older than Paul Biya. The logic is clear that I should not have such a
Such an ambition.
yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
There's no other interest and nobody behind me.
Nobody behind you.
No.
And Munzu is just the coordinator.
He's a coordinator in whom I have my total confidence. He can write English and French well, and he has the international experience. Those are the type of people on the situation like this. He has been involved in the settlement of certain similar problems in some countries in Africa in the name of the United Nations. So all right, let some people propose to me who could have done that. He's a convinced Christian.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.